Everybody, hang on a second while I promote you. See, Alexandra, good to see you. Amy, good to see you. Beverly, let's see. Carmelita, good to see you. Jackie Z, good to see you. Let's see. Hopefully, Amy, I think I got you this second time around. Colin, good to see you, buddy. David, good to see you too. Good catch yesterday. Gina, you're going to be. Gina, let me know. I just promoted you, Gina. Let me know if Beverly gave you an administrator's role or co-host link. If you
Oh, I don't have that.
Okay,
let me go back out and see if I can go find it.
That's okay. I'll be able to do it right here.
Okay, good deals.
Yep. Let's see. Liz, good to see you from Northern Virginia. Luann, good to see you as always. Texas. Melanie, boy, Texas is represented well today. Chris, good to see you from great state of Cali. We'll call it Cali from now on. Rob Perot, good to see you, buddy. Good call today. Let's see. Roger. Sean. Shirley, oh boy, we're packing them in today. Everybody wants to see you, Gina. I'm going to figure out, I'm going to have Beverly figure out how we can, oh, thanks. I want to have Beverly figure out how we can have this be done automatically instead of me doing this one at a time because the classes are growing. Tom, good to see you, buddy. Teresa. Oh, good, Teresa. Well, I hope we'll do some, we'll chat maybe tomorrow, Teresa. Just want to catch up. Tom Wall, good to see you, buddy.
Hi,
so right now it looks like Texas and Florida are tied. Tony, good to see you. Okay, I think that is everybody so far. So now let me go back here, Gina. Hang on one second. Okay, Gina, now you're a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen. For everybody on tonight, hopefully you got your text or emails. Gina's going to teach class tonight on the DISC profile, okay? And this is vitally important. I mean, not just for the agents online, but for the investors too, because when you can do a better job of understanding another person's personality profile, you can do a better job of understanding them and understanding how to communicate with them, okay? You can basically shift into their, what we call quadrants. I'm gonna let Gina talk more about that. But this, everybody should understand this, even if you're not even actively working. Every conversation you have of understanding this is vitally important, even at home with your spouses, your children, and you'll know why when we get finished with, by the time we get finished with the class tonight. So I think it's Gina, can you see where you can do your share screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Good to go.
Okay, everybody all set? We're recording, we're live, and let's hit the ground, hit the grass.
All right, here we go. Let me move this aside. Can everybody see my screen?
I can.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let's just start off with, I'm ADD. It's hard for me to check on the chat box and all that kind of stuff. So, and I come from a huge family of women, so I do not mind being interrupted. So it's completely okay to go, wait, tell me more about this, okay? And I like that interaction going back and forth, okay? Come on, somebody, let's hear something back.
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go through this, and the first thing I want to start with is go ahead and just shout it out, and then afterwards also put it in the chat box so I can go back at the end of the class. But what do you guys want to learn today? Just tell me what it is you guys want to get out of this, because I want to make sure I cover the class for you.
How to assess somebody's profile without having them take the DISC profile.
Perfect. Okay, we'll cover that. What else you guys got? This is going to be a super easy class.
Probably just how to identify my own strengths and weaknesses and work within them.
Okay. All right. So we'll cover your own strengths.
Who's chopping vegetables?
We're not going to cover chopping vegetables today, just FYI. I don't think I can teach and have a knife in my hand at the same time.
They muted themselves.
All right. What else do you guys want to learn out of this? What would be really good if you could grab this out of this class?
Key characteristics of each profile.
Okay, perfect. So go through that as well.
Hey, Gina.
Yeah.
What about like the most common profiles and maybe what's one of the rare ones, you know?
Ooh, that's really good. All right, we'll
Yeah.
cover that too. We'll cover common and then the really rare ones. It's all right. Does anyone have anything else?
I think it would be interesting to know how to work, what types of conversations you would transition with if you're one type and someone else is another, and you may have more difficulty with certain types. How do you determine who you're gonna flow with a little better? That didn't come out well, but
Oh, I think I got it.
there's some types are easier for me than others. So how do you work with ones that you find more difficult, I guess?
Very good. Okay, perfect. I've got it.
Example conversations. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So transitioning and working with somebody who's very different or even the exact opposite as you.
Yes.
Got it. All right. Does anyone else have anything?
How does it compare to the Myers-Briggs test?
Ah, very good. All right, we'll cover that one right out of the gate. That's a great question.
How about
And
when
when
you
I
have
say
a
that's a great
couple?
question, that means I didn't write it down or I didn't think of it ahead of time, but we'll cover it. What you got, Tom?
When you have a couple and you've identified the couple's disc profiles, you know, which one should you be paying more attention to versus the other if they're not the same?
Love it. Okay. All right. What else you guys got?
How about the difference between the public self, the private self, and the perceived self?
You just went above my pay grade, David.
That'll be 102.
Yeah, disc 102, we'll do that.
Okay.
I might be able to cover a little bit on that one, but I won't be able to go too deep on it today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, though. And feel free when we get to like that part, like pitching in with everything you know on that as well.
I'm asking you.
Love it. All right.
Stuff.
Is there anything else that y'all want to learn out of this?
About what are some key questions to ask to build rapport for each?
Ah, I love that. Okay. Anything else? Going once, going twice, digging right in. Okay. And then, like I said before, feel free to interrupt, feel free to add stuff, and then we'll circle back around at the end and cover questions also. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to go through just a broad idea of what the DISC is and sort of the things that DISC is and DISC is not. So first off, this is not specific and is not super detailed. So where it differs, I think it was Beverly that asked about where it differs, and sorry if it wasn't, where it differs from the Myers-Briggs is that Myers-Briggs goes into DISC on steroids, so much more deeper. So this is an easier version. It's easier to wrap your brain around. And it's easier to kind of help you as you're dealing with other people, especially from different personality types. So it's a simplified version. So it's very broad generalities. So you're not going to see every single thing. Like let's say that you've taken the DISC test and you show up as a high I, and I list a bunch of things that are typical of high I, but you're like, but not that one. That's fine. Don't worry about it. That's broad generalities. What you will find is that you probably find yourself right in one quadrant and then leaning towards one or leaning towards the other, or maybe kind of leaning to both of the quadrants on either side of you. You will see some of that. And then we'll go through at the end if you If you're like, I'm not really sure where I fit, I think I'm this, but I'm a little of this one also, we'll go through kind of some clarifying questions and some stuff to help you kind of identify what, no, my feet are firmly planted here. Most people are pretty firmly planted in one quadrant and then lean towards another quadrant. Once in a blue moon, you'll get somebody that will be both feet planted in both quadrants, but they still have a tiny bit over on one side or the other side. So we'll kind of go through that also. And then the other thing is DISC has nothing to do with being a jerk or not being a jerk, because every personality type can be a jerk and every personality type cannot be a jerk. So jerkiness, or however you want to call it, has nothing to do with this on any level. This is more of how we show up in the world, how we process through information, and then how we interact with other people versus whether we're jerks or not. So, all right. So we're going to dive straight into a broad overview, and then we'll go through each one of the quadrants separately. So first off, you'll see the DISC is divided. The top half is extroverted and fast-paced, and the bottom half is introverted and slower paced. And then on my left side, well, your left side too, if you're looking at the screen, goal-oriented on this side and cooler personalities. And then over on this side, people-oriented and warmer personalities. So that's just a big, broad overview. So if I'm trying to kind of figure out where somebody is, the first thing that I'm going to look at is, do they talk fast-paced or slow-paced? And then that's automatically going to help me with, do I put them in one of these two, or do I put them in one of these two, as I'm trying to figure out what the person is that maybe my client is that I'm dealing with. So far as all that makes sense. Give me some head nods. Awesome. All right.
Yes.
So let's dig straight into D. So D personality type: extroverted, fast-paced, goal-oriented. They run on the cool side. And what I mean when I say they run on the cool side is they're just not super warm, fluffy people. They just tend to run a little bit more on the cooler side. The percentage of the world that is D is about 1 to 3% of the world. It's the smallest one of these, one of the discs that there are. And as I do the numbers, there's a little bit of overlap because some people are in 2 quadrants. So it's about 1 to 3% of the world. It's one of the rarest ones. Career: these people for a career choice are anything where they can run the world. So CEO of a company, boss, person in charge, whatever it is, that's where they are. They usually like to run things. I call D for do it, because they're very good at saying, hey, you do this and you do that. That's typically where they end up. Clothing: they typically wear all black or very dark solid colors. So it's classic dark suit, that kind of a look. The part of the house that they like, if you're dealing with buyers, the part of the house that they like is that it's the grandest house on the street or the biggest house on the street. They like that sense of big and grand and impressiveness, because D is all about impressing. That's what a D is: a power, control, position, impressing. As a seller, the way that they like to do business is bottom line, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bottom line. So if I've got a client and I know they're a high D and I need to get some paperwork signed, I'm going to call them up and I'm going to say, hey, look, I'm going to be over there. I'm going to shoot you over DocuSign. And it's just literally like, click here, click here, click here, sign, you're done. And if it's really like that and you're in and out of my hair as fast as possible, I think you're amazing. I think you're absolutely amazing. By the way, high D. Then to out D a D, if your client is a D and they're starting to kind of push their weight around and starting to kind of push you around a little bit, the way that you out D a D, which is about one of the fewest ways you can negotiate with them, is to put them in their place with a really simple no. And they really, really respond to that. Hey, we're gonna, as a high D, hey, we're gonna go do this, so I need you to do that. No, we're gonna do this. And then they'll just kind of sit back because you've outd'd them and they respect that. They really will sit back and go, all right, then we'll do it your way since you took control. So it's about that control. The thing that you want to be careful about with a high D is this power struggle. When you get this, you really have to come in with a high D and you've got to come in higher than them in order to out D them and get them to calm back down again and not try and run and control everything in your world. Communication, negotiation. So we went over that one. They're very, very much a bottom line. Lead generation. Typically high Ds like a type of real estate lead generation that is the most bang for their buck and the quickest, fastest time with the least hassle. So they don't really have a fear of cold calling if you can just get them over the initial fear of cold calling. Whatever they can do to be able to hit as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, and as efficiently as possible, that's what they're going to do. And the reason why they're going to do that is because the fear for a high D is that you're going to either waste their time or make them look like a fool. And either one, they will kill you dead. They will just literally kill you dead. Again, they do not want their time wasted ever. If you make them look like a fool, then you've humiliated them and they're done with you. That will never happen again. They're so goal oriented that if they're here and the goal is here and you happen to be standing in their way, they've mowed you over. They don't even maybe know that they've mowed you over because they're not detail oriented. They're big picture. They're really, really sorry you were standing in the path. You probably shouldn't have been standing there. You know, it's that kind of a thing. So that's how goal oriented they are. They're the most goal oriented of the 4 personality types. Anger. When this person gets angry, which takes them a while to get angry, they tend to usually keep it under control. But when they do get angry, they tell you in no uncertain terms what has happened. And then when they're done, and you'll get finger pointed at, and then when they're done, they're done. It's over, it's done. They've either apologized or forgiven you, or it's just not brought back up again or discussed again because they're done. They said it, we're done, we move on. So it's usually, it might flash, but it's usually more controlled and it's very direct and to the point. Like you will not be left after an interaction with the D going, gosh, I don't know where I stand, because they will have told you exactly where you stand in no uncertain terms. And then if the D was driving a car, they would be in the fast lane and get the heck out of their way. Okay, any questions so far just on D? All right, what you got?
No questions, but yeah, I resemble that.
As you're wearing all black? Uh-huh.
Yeah, let's see if I can show you my closet. It's all black.
Yeah, love it. All right, I personality. So I personality, extroverted, fast-paced, but people-oriented. So different than the D, where the D was goal-oriented, the I is very people-oriented. And on the warm scale, these people run really, really hot. And what I mean by that is they are so warm and so inviting, and they're social butterflies. They just attract you to them. They are they're charismatic. They are the person that when they're out there up on stage or at a party or whatever, you're drawn to them like a moth to a flame. They're that type of personality. They so extroverted, fast-paced, warm. Percentage. The percentage of people in the world that are I people are about 10 to 13%. So it's more than a D, but it's still a pretty small percentage of society is this high I personality. Career-wise, anything that puts them in a lot of social interactions with a lot of people. So the opposite of being in a desk in a corner, leave me alone. They want to be out front, on stage, in front of people, interacting with a lot of networking events, those kinds of things. They love that kind of stuff. Anywhere where they can talk and be surrounded by a big group of people and a big group of friends. Let me see, clothing. Loud, think for guys, think Hawaiian shirts or really fun ties. And for a girl, think a really big floral print or something along those lines, or big statement jewelry. Maybe even, I'm in the South, so maybe even big hair. It's that very much I am a social peacock and I love it. And they carry it off really, really well also. The part of the house that they like as buyers, it's wherever the party is. So it could be the kitchen, it could be the backyard pool area, it could be the great room, but it's the very public portions of the house. It's that part. It's wherever you're gonna have a big, huge party and the party's gonna gather, that's the part of the house that they care about. To selling to them how they like to do business, I like you, you like me. Let's go get this paperwork done and go grab lunch, grab a glass of wine. It's that kind of thing. Let's go have fun. If it's not fun, and it doesn't involve party people, talking, chatting, and those kinds of things, they are not interested. They're just, you'll watch them wilt if you try and walk them through too much paperwork. They literally will just wilt in front of you. And they're like, can't we just go do anything else? Like anything else. Let me see what else. For negotiation, it literally is, look, let's just get this thing done and then let's go, and I want to be your friend. And because they want to be your friend, they will avoid conflict, not completely, but to a degree somewhat, because they really want everyone to get along and just be a friend. So if there is conflict, they might blow up really quickly and come right back down again, but they really, really just want it to be easy and want to go have fun afterwards. They don't want to be dealing with hard stuff that wears them down. Their lead generation, anything that has to do with networking or working with a lot of people. So there's very little fear of door knocking, of working a room, of working a party, of working with their friends and social spheres. And the cool thing with this personality type is typically they have so many social groups. So most of us will run around in maybe 3 or 4 different social networks, like your family, your really close friends, your work environment, and another one, a sport or a church or something like that. Well, the high I personality belongs to that, and they belong to the bowling league, and they belong to the Rotary, and they belong to, name 4 other things that are fun. I mean, they belong to all of us. They have very large social networks. And because of that, and then everyone knows what it is that they do, that's a big part of how they get their business, just by being out there and being very, very social with it. When the high I's fear is that you won't like them. And you can just watch them wilt. If you literally tell high, I don't like you, they're like, everybody likes me, because everybody does. I mean, they almost can't fathom that somebody doesn't like them, because everybody does love this personality type. They're just a lot of fun to be around. When they get angry, they flare really, really, really fast, and it's sky high. And they might say horrible things up here, just "Arr!" And it means nothing. It's just blowing off steam. That's all it is. They come right back down again when they're done. And then they're like, what? Aren't we still friends? And you're like, no. Because what you just said hurt. And they're like, but it doesn't mean anything. And it doesn't. It just doesn't. It's just they have so much energy and they've got to get it out. So that's a high I in anger. And if a high I is driving a car, they're in whatever lane they want to be in, because they got the top down, they got the music on, they're singing, they're waving to everybody, they're having a blast. So the high I is in whatever lane they want to be in. All right. Any questions on I before I move into S? Does anyone resemble that remark on the high I's? Or find yourself definitely yes, David, you were there, and I can't see everyone else's screens.
High D, high I.
High D, high I, yep. By the way, this right here, a lot of times when I teach this, people think that well, I want to be a D or an I, because this combination, this DI, is known as a power agent for either an ID personality or a DI personality. And they're just known as a power agent. The D gets stuff done, the I has a large social network. It is not the only group that I have seen be at the top level of in real estate. They just look very differently for the other 2 groups, very differently. So, all right, let's dig into that. So S personality now. Oh, I'm going to go back to I for 1 second. My friend was a high I, and she used to always say, this is one of my favorite high I remarks. And for me, I remember I because it's I this, I that. And my friend would do this when she met you. She would talk. And then she would go, enough of me. What do you think of me? And it was just classic high I. I mean, classic high I. So, all right. S personality. Extroverted, slower paced, warm, and very people oriented. 67% of the world is right here. So solid, stable, secure, responsible, reliable, salt of the earth, just rock solid human beings. My mother-in-law is right here, and she is probably the best mother-in-law and mother to my husband of anybody I've ever met in my entire life. She's just warm and hot, has full of hospitality, all those kinds of things. They're a slower warm, and so it's not hot like the eye, it's a slower warm. And what I mean by that, it just takes them a long while actually, for them to actually be able to trust you. So they'll just kind of pull back and watch you. But when they finally do, when you finally earn their trust, then they're just really warm. So it's a very slow, warm personality. All right, career for the high S, anything that has to do with reliable, responsible, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. This is what I do. I show up every single day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So admin, support, government employee, anything where the world needs you to show up at 9 o'clock, and they always will. Like, they will not ever show up at work. They will always be there at 9 o'clock. And then at 5 o'clock, they're done because their job is done now and they're going to go home. But they're always going to be responsible and reliable. If you hand a project to this personality, they're going to make sure that it's done to the best of their ability, because they're about people pleasing and making you happy and getting it done, because they have this strong sense of responsibility and reliability. They wear like a mantle over their shoulders. Clothing. For clothing, this personality is going to wear what's very, very comfortable. So for women, it might be like a tiny print, little tiny flower print, elastic, scoop neck, elastic at the waist, maybe kind of loose and kind of flowing, just really comfortable. For men and women, actually, it's going to be comfortable shoes. It might even be, these are my favorite pants, and this is my favorite shirt, and they're both clean, and I feel really comfortable in them. So it might be a little bit of that also. If you see someone completely clean, pressed, ironed, creased, it's not going to be this personality, because it's just not. Now, can they do it? Yes, but comfortable, they're going to go towards that more comfortable clothing. Sweaters versus structured blazers, that kind of stuff. The part of the house that they like and that they care about is the very internal parts of the house. So it's the master bedroom. It might be the kitchen, as the kitchen being the hearth and the heart of the family home. It could also be master bedroom, kitchen, could be the great room also, or living room, if that's where the family and the private part of the house kind of gathers. So that's our very favorite part of the house. It might be the garden. It might be a sewing room. It's going to be something along those lines. Sellers and how they like to do business. Okay, so let's go back to buyers for a second. Here's the thing with an S. They are non-confrontational, and they're also very concerned with stating their opinion, because they feel that it may hurt your feelings. So they will not say, I want this or I want to do that. And for them, there are many people that feel like when they're faced with a decision, just make a decision, and if it's wrong, change it. That is not the S. The S will agonize, the S and the C also, but the S will agonize over, is this the right decision or not? And then they'll wait. What they typically like to do is gather people that they trust around them and kind of bounce the idea off of them also. So if you've ever been in a real estate transaction where you've taken a person around and you show them 5 houses, 4 suck and 1's amazing, and this is the one, and then they come up and they say, hey, can I bring my friend to look at the house? And you're thinking, yes, that's it. We're going to do it. That means that we're buying this house. The friend who has not seen these houses, just sees this house, does not like this house, and tells the S personality, you cannot buy this house. This is not the house for you. If you've ever had that happen, you're probably dealing with the high S. And so what I do when I recognize that I've got a high S right out of the gate is I say, who in your life is really important to you that you kind of bounce ideas off of? Like, who is that person? And then when they tell me, I said, let's bring them along with us. And then you bring them with you as you're looking at properties, or have them bring them with them. And they will look at those 4. And that person who's been protecting the S their whole life will say, none of those are good. And they'll say this one, they'll say, this is the one you need to buy. And then the S will actually buy it. So that's what I do if I'm working with an S buyer, to kind of head that off at the pass. If you're dealing with an S seller, they're so non-confrontational, and they'll retreat from all of that. So what I do with an S buyer is I say this, and I'm like, look, my job is to be a buffer between you and the other party, which means you never have to have an argument or anything like that. You tell me what it is that you want, and I go make sure that I get it for you. And I build that I am a hedge of protection around you, and I'm not going to force you into a situation where you've got conflict. The other thing with S, their fear, I'll go straight into their fear. Their fear is conflict or change. And what they will do is just retreat, and they will just pull back. And so they will pull back and pull back and pull back until they finally have had enough, and then the claws will come out and they're like, done. Okay. But it takes, like, if you pushed me a little bit, I'd be like, knock it off. But I can push an S about a mile down the road and then another mile around the corner before the claws will finally come out. And before I understood personality types, when they used to come out, I'd be like, where in the heck did that come from? I've been pushing this person around for miles now, you know? But when you get them backed into a corner, they will dig their heels in, and that's it. And they are not moving from that spot. And I mean, they are not moving from that spot. So that's their fear. And then their anger is just to retreat. They will just continue to retreat. To lead generate this personality type, anything that has to do with sphere. So the top agent that we had one of my top agents in an office back in Virginia was this personality type. And all he did was he met with a sphere. He told his sphere, he said, look, I could be like other agents. By the way, he would meet with a picture of his gorgeous kids on the table bio. He'd say, I could be like other agents, and I could be calling people all day long, or I could just take really good care of you. And if you really like the way this transaction goes, you can just refer a couple of your friends to me if you like it. How's that sound? And they would say, well, that sounds fair. And then he would ask them again when he brought the offer or they got their offer accepted. He would say, remember those 2 people that we asked about if you like my business? And, you know, how's my business? Oh, that's great. Do you know 2 people? No, I really don't. That's okay. No worries. And then at the closing table, he'd say, remember how we talked about referring a couple people to me if you like, you know, yeah. How's everything going? Oh, it's been great. Awesome. Can I get those 2 names from you? And that's all he ever did. He just worked with people that knew him, loved him, very close family, very close friends. And he did about, I think he was doing maybe 80, 90 units a year when I had first met him before we started building that one up. So their sphere, they don't have to be, they're not pushy, and they're never going to be pushy. Their sphere knows that they will protect them better than anybody else because that's what they're about. They're very, very protecting people who want to also be protected. Car. Okay. If a high S is driving in a car, they're in whatever lane they started in because that is a good lane. And I will never change lanes. So with my mother-in-law, I broke my foot one time. I broke my foot and I wasn't supposed to drive. And so my mother-in-law came over to drive me to work. And it was about a 45-minute drive. It's in the San Francisco Bay Area and busy traffic. And we're behind a bus, and the bus has stopped. And I think there's maybe 4 lanes. And we were in this lane behind the bus stop, and there's nobody in these 3 lanes. And it took everything I had. So before I finally said, Linda, and she's like, what? I'm like, I need you to go around the bus. And she's like, really? Mm-hmm. I need you to go around the bus now. And we went around the bus and back in our lane again. But we were around the bus. So they just don't. There's no need to change lanes. It's a good lane. It's fine. Okay. C personality type, our last one. So introverted, slower paced, cold, not cold-hearted, just cool to get to know, on the colder side to get to know. They're just not gregarious, over the top people, very goal-oriented. So I remember C by using the word controller, and I don't mean that by a controlling person. I mean that in the terminology, accounting terminology. So accountant, that type of a personality type, engineer, accountant, actuary, all those would be C personality types. So this person is about 35% of the world. So S being the largest, C next largest, and then I for around 10% and D for 1 to 3. So this person around 30, 35-ish% of the world. Career, we went through that. It's accountant, actuary, somebody who loves to work on computers, somebody who likes numbers, charts, graphs, architectural drawing, architect, all those are really good careers for that C personality type. And by the way, one of the things about personality types, it doesn't mean that you can't do something. It just means that those things will wear you down. So I'm a D with I and me. I was an accountant for years and it just wore me down. That's all it was. It didn't mean I can't do it. We're smart people. We can all do pretty much whatever we put our minds to. It just wore me down at the end of the day. Okay, clothing, neutral earth tones, plaid, checks, pocket protector. Practical, responsible shoes, practical shoes, that kind of thing. Part of the house that they like, the part that the research shows them that they like. So it might be a new roof and new plumbing and in the right neighborhood with the right school. It could be the ugliest house you've ever seen, but it doesn't matter because they've done the research. It has the right roof, it's in the right neighborhood, it's in the right school, and it has new plumbing, and that's it. So it's very much, that's their favorite part of the house. This part of it's because a house makes sense. So buyers, when I'm working with a high C buyer, you cannot give too much information to a high C buyer. So I don't try and give them, I'm not the information, I'm the source of the information. Here are 10 articles. When you are done reading these 10 articles, you let me know and I will send you 10 more. Don't, if I was dealing with the high D personality, I would take those articles and I would highlight the 5 points that I want them to see in them. And that's it. If I would give them to the I would laugh because I would know that I would never look at them anyway. But if it's the C personality, I'm not going to cull through the information. I'm just going to dump information on them. Do you want more websites? Here's more websites. Do you want more of this? Here's more of this. One of the things that I used to do is here's the entire purchase and sale agreement, the entire thing. I want you to go through it, highlight every single thing you got questions about, and then bring it back to me and we'll answer your questions. And then however much time you think it would take to answer the questions of a person, I'm going to say this because my husband's one of these, a normal person would ask times it times 3, because it will take you 3 times as long to go through their questions. It just will. Okay, sellers, to negotiate with this person. So it's the numbers. I'm going to use numbers. I'm going to use charts. I'm going to use graphs. And by the way, after you give them that, they're still going to research it out to make sure that you're right. So they're research buyers. When my husband and I, I'm going to make a little bit of fun of him right now, probably because I don't think he can hear me because he's back over there. But my husband and I will go shopping and I will find something. I'm like, I want this. He's already scanned the barcode to see if it's cheaper anywhere else. And he's looking to see when Amazon can have it delivered. And I will never get it that day. I will get it 2 days later on Prime through Amazon because it's cheaper that way. So he's going to research out everything. Lead generation. For this personality type, anything that they can crunch numbers and they can work a system. So REO agents, the ones that I knew that were extraordinarily good at this, a lot of them were a C personality type. They just were very, very good at, there's not a personality involved. They don't have to have a personality involved. They just have to deal with the bank and numbers and put it out there and have it in the right format to get it out there and get it sold. So it's that type of a personality type that likes that type of lead generation. Their fear, oh my gosh, this one's biggest fear is that they're going to be wrong, and not wrong in a prideful, like I need to be right kind of way. Wrong in a, oh my God, I made a mistake and I might have told somebody some bad information. and it almost paralyzes them. They hate being wrong. Anger. When this personality type gets angry, what they do is they start at the dawn of time and explain it to you. Because if you understood the entire situation from the dawn of time, you would realize that they've already thought through everything, and that's why they've come up with the conclusion that they have. So, and I tell my husband this, he's like, I'm not this way, but we'll be disagreeing. And I'm like, first there was fire. He's like, yes, First there was fire. And so I had a boss that was this personality type one time, and I went home to my husband. I'm like, how do I stop him? Like, I just want an answer, and I always get an answer. Like, how do I stop? And my husband's like, you can't. I'm like, oh my gosh. And you can't. Because if you interrupt them, they start over with the dawn of time. And first there was fire. And you just got to let them get all the way through it. Okay, car. If this person's driving a car, they're in the fast lane, but they're going the speed limit because that's the law. All right. So selling for the bottom line for this D personality, the question that they're constantly asking in their head is, are you the best? Are you the best? If I know you're the best, I can relax and I can let you do your job. But I need to know you're best. On the I personality, do I like you? It's constantly in the back of it's in the back of there. Do I like you? Do you like me? Do I like you? Do you like me? All right, we'll do business together because we like each other. We'll make it work. For the S personality, can I trust you? So once I trust you, then I put my trust ultimately in you, and then we're fine from that point forward. But it takes me a long time. Can I trust you? And for this one, it's what proof do you have? Are you right? And even though you will prove that you have the proof that this person needs, they're still going to research you out anyway. That's just how they're wired. It's nothing against you. They just need to know that the research has been done and that you've got proof that you're right. Okay. How do they interact with each other?
Gina,
And then I'm going to
what
open up
percentage are C's?
about 35-ish, 30, 35, right in that range.
Okay.
Okay, so first off, how they interact, and then we'll kind of answer some questions of, what just my IB and how do I tell, and I'll walk you through how you tell what other people are. So D's, any quadrant naturally loves the quadrant right next to them. So D's like I's, D's like C's, I's like S's, I's like C's. And the reason why is because we share a lot of similarities. So here we're fast paced. Here we're both people oriented. Here we're slow paced introverted. Here we're both goal oriented. Where we see struggles is in the opposites. So what a D thinks of an S is that a D thinks an S just will not move. It's like, can you please just make a decision and move? And so for me, like dealing with my mother-in-law, I feel like I'm constantly, come on, let's go. Because they're so slow paced and it's just how they are. And they won't make a decision. And I'm very much like this. What an S thinks of a D is, could you please just stop pushing me? Like, I will get there when I get there. What an I thinks of a C is, you're judging me. I can tell you don't think I'm doing anything right. You don't like it. You want me to be more like you and more rigid, and you're judging me. And what a C is doing to an I, they're judging him. They're absolutely judging him. It's like, oh my gosh, could you not just like dot I's and cross T's? Because if you could, then the world would work perfectly. And I've already researched it from the dawn of time, and that's how it works. So it's the opposite personality type that we struggle with. So for me, people all the time, like I hear all the time that D's are, oh, D's, it's amazing. That's like the best real estate thing you could possibly be. Well, okay, but think of this. I am 1 to 3% of the world, and I have the hardest time with 60% of the world. 60 to 67% of the world sits here. And it's hard for me to interact and slow down and build rapport and like chill out while inside I'm just like to get a decision made so that I can help the majority of the world, which sits down in this quadrant. So it's I mean, it's not easy to go across those other lines. Some of the things that I do is I slow my pacing way down. I mirror and match. And I bring my mirror and matching way down so that I can interact with these. And I grab from the first clues of how they're talking, and I'll try and bring it down to that, and then slowly bring them up a little bit towards mine. And I'll never forget, I met a guy who was a high SC and from Texas. And he was like, honey, do you hear how fast I talk? And I was like, yes. And he goes, that's how fast I listen. I'm like, all right, got it. The interesting thing is, okay, so for all the actually, I'm going to take this off of sharing screen so I can see all y'all, and we'll go into some other stuff. Okay. For all y'all who talk fast, what is it that you guys think when you run across somebody that's talking slower? Like, what is it? And there's no judgment here, just what is it that you instinctually kind of think about that personality type?
They're too analytical.
They're too what?
Analytical.
When they talk slower. Okay, very good. Anything else?
I don't necessarily think so, but I think sometimes people think you're dumber.
Bingo. So a lot of times, thank you, Susan. A lot of times what people think is that they're slower because they speak slower, that they're just not as bright. Okay. Now, conversely, what do slower paced people think of people who talk really, really fast?
They're from New York.
Fast one.
New York. What else we got? From
They're
the
trying to
east.
tell me something.
They're trying to tell me something. There we
Yes.
go.
People think Slick Willie, you know, they think that the person's trying to have the upper hand all the time. They know everything and they talk so much and they're Slick Willie and they're got the game on all the time.
That is who said that? Because I've got two screens here and I can't keep up on all the screens.
That was me, Rob Parrott.
Rob, you are dead on right. They think
It's not always true, but I've got friends like that I don't want to go into business with to have them help represent what I'm trying to pitch and do. They're brilliant, they're awesome, they're great. But I know that everybody's going to look at them going, what is this guy after my wallet about? You know?
It is so true. They think we're going to take them. They really do. So it really, you need to be hyper aware of the other person's rate of speech. And that's the very first step, is to slow down and match that rate of speech. And then use the things that are important to if you're fast talking. You're slower talking, you'll need to speed it up a little bit. And then use the phrases and the terminologies that are important to that personality type. High D, bottom line, boom, 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 get it done. High I like you. You're a lot of fun to hang out with. S, let's protect you and keep you safe. And if you've got some friends, let's bring them along too. And let's make this, so that you're safe all the way through. C, here's some numbers. Here's some more numbers. Here's some more numbers. Here's some more numbers. Oh, by the way, there's fire back there. And we can start there if you want and work it up through.
Would you like to borrow my calculator?
Exactly. So anyone got a pocket protector? Okay. Is anyone here confused about which disc they might be? Like they feel like they're one, but they're not really sure which one they are, that is willing to kind of work with me?
I'll step up and say something, Gina, because I've participated in group sessions like this before. And I think everything that's always said is pretty much like bullseye dead on. It makes a lot of sense because I am analytical and because I am, I try to be intuitive in those things. And so those things make sense. Everything you're saying seems to be spot on. And as I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, which one is me? And I just kind of slide between maybe three of them almost. I'm certainly not introverted and that. I am very goal oriented. I'm very extroverted, but I'm also methodical and analytical and critical thinking, but not so much so that it gets in my way and prevents me from doing things. And I just try to be thorough, personality wise, I make friends in the grocery line while I'm checking out. Oh, great. Okay, awesome. And we're old buddies, by the time I'm through there, everybody's laughing and we're wonderful. And that's great from a charisma point of view, but sometimes you just lose people because it comes across maybe intimidating, because like you said, a lot of people, 60% or whatever the figure was, are not that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm probably but how is it if I'm that I'm also very extroverted, but also kind of slow paced, and I just, I don't know if it's the weather or if it depends on what day it is, or it depends on who I'm talking to, but I do try to match and mirror, but not as consciously as you might think. I think that I sort of am who I am, and maybe it's the goal or the task that I'm facing that I maybe slide from I to S.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to think that I'm D, baby,
Oh, we all want to think we're Ds.
Yeah, but I realize that but I'm very people oriented though. And I want to hear, I don't really want to hear about the fire either, but sometimes I build the fire with you. The once upon there was fire. So,
Yeah, you
you
can
know.
build fire with my husband. Because I will start a story at the beginning and then wait, I need to go to the beginning, or I'll start in the middle and then I got to go to the beginning to give you some facts so I can get you to the end. So,
Well, I think sometimes you maybe you might need to be that way with certain people too, but I won't dominate much more conversation. But what I'll say is I've done some public speaking and things before as well, and I don't remember where I heard this or what the setting was, but I think I've read it or been told it or something. But um, I guess the concise point is that people hear 70% of what you say and they recall 30% of that.
mhm.
And ever since I heard that, I was very conscious and aware of that. So if you're only going to hear 70% of what I'm going to say, I
Mhm.
better hope that I get everything that's important out and it all better make sense and matter. And then I got to figure out how to color it all wonderfully and sparkly so that the 30% you pull out is at least, you know what I mean? So 70% of what you hear and the 30% that you recall.
Yep, love it. All right, so let's use, if you're cool with it, I'd like to use you for an example. Can I do that, Rob?
Sure.
All right. So if I'm trying to pull out of somebody what they are, and if you're trying to figure out kind of what you are, and I'm kind of this quadrant, but I might be this one, go straight to the fear. Now I wouldn't do this unless I was with another person, unless I was very comfortable with that person. But for your own self, go to the fear. So if you think that if you're confused whether you're a D, let's say in your case you were like D, I, or maybe a C, I think was the other one, the analytical one. So would it be worse for you to be at a job where no matter what happened, you were never effective? No matter how hard you tried, you were never, ever, ever effective. You could never get anything done.
That's terrible. Yeah.
Okay. Or would it be worse to be at a job where you were effective and you get stuff done, but there's a couple of people that really don't like you? Or would it be worse that you were effective and you can get stuff done, but people gave you the wrong information all the time and you were always having to go back and undo what you had done because you were given the wrong information? It went out to the public and now you have to undo what you've done. Which one of those three scenarios is the worst?
Wow. I think the last one is terrible because that just doesn't seem productive. I mean, I don't know how I could be effective and maybe I'm getting task oriented, getting it done because the boss says do it and it's on my calendar to be done. But what was the point if it was wrong?
Okay, so you probably are. What I'm hearing is D and C language, because I heard effective, but I heard wrong also, and you were like, oh, and the first one you were like horrible, but the one of they don't like me, that you're like, eh. I didn't even hear you talk about that one. So you're somewhere in D or C, and I'm not really sure which one because you don't want to be wrong, and you went there, but you also went with the effective one. So dig into the fear, and that's going to help uncover which one you lean more towards. And you, Rob, may be exactly firmly planted in two quadrants. That just may be where you're planted. But if one feels worse, that's what you lean into. So dig into the fear.
Great.
Now,
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Now, here's how I tell what another person is. First off, you cannot base it on their car. So I have a fast little sporty car right now, and I do drive in the fast lane, and I drive only in the fast lane and get out of my way because I will mow you over. However, I've had a series of God only knows how many cars, and I don't even know what any of them are, and it was just a stupid series of cars. So you can't go by cars. So the first thing I look at is, are they talking fast or slow? Because that will tell me, are they on the top or on the bottom? And then the second thing I'm going to do, if I don't know you at all, so who is cool with playing along with me for a second? Let me say yes. David, awesome. Okay, so if I don't know what David is, but I know David talks pretty fast, so I know he's probably a D or an I, but I'm not really sure which one. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, hey, David, before real estate, what did you used to do? And like, what did you love or hate about it? Go.
real estate was my first career, honestly, but I did study photography, and I loved the creative side of things in photography. Getting outdoors and exploring new things, and just the artistic things. And I still enjoy it. So
Okay.
I like being creative.
I love that. So I'm probably going to lean him more towards an I, because he was more about creative and being outdoors and the experience and all that kind of stuff, versus I had a job where I got things done. And that's gonna, so for me, for my own personal, what I used to do was accounting. And what I hated about it was that I could tell when a company was gonna fold, and they never listened to me because I was just the accountant. So I wanted the control, and I did not feel like I had it. And also I was like left, in a back corner to do my work, which, so ask them what they used to do, and then really listen to what it was that they used to do. Was it a good fit? Did they love it? Did they hate it? And what was it they loved it and hated about it? So that's how I kind of dig into to try and figure out what the personality type is that I'm dealing with. I'm going through my notes really quickly. Let me see. Transition. Yes.
So Gina, you would clarify. So if somebody was I'm trying to think of it. So if somebody is a contractor today, you would, whatever their current career is, you would ask them what they had done before that.
Oh, so that's such a good question. I do that with real estate agents.
Okay.
Because I need to go back a career. So for a contractor, I'm probably going to say, tell me about your job and like, what do you love or hate about it? Because I can kind of figure out a little bit from the career that they're in, but then I can really figure out from what they love or hate about that. And that combined with rate of speech will at least get you close to what that personality is. So good question, David. Okay, so we answered the thing of Myers-Briggs. Building rapport, use their language, their rate of speech, etc. Transitioning in also. There's a cool thing that I learned on transitioning. We still got a little bit of time. Okay, there's a cool thing that I learned on transitioning is this. I am building rapport. So if you guys want to do this, it's a really cool social experiment, and it taught me extraordinarily well. So I was challenged in order to learn how to build rapport and bring my rate of speech the down towards where it needed to be when dealing with that portion of the public, to going into a Target or a store or somewhere in a place where you're never going to do business with whoever it is that you're going to talk to. So I was in a different town at a Target. And by the way, I did not tell my husband, who's Mr. Buttoned Up to Here, high C accountant personality type, did not tell him that I was going to do this. But what you do is you listen to the clerk that's checking you out, and whatever her rate of speech is, you go the exact opposite of her rate of speech for an extended period of time, and you just keep on talking. So the Target clerk was really, really quick, and she was doing this and she was doing, and so I was like, excuse me, and I started talking. And my husband's head looked at me because he's like, what is she doing? And he's embarrassed. He's not going to say anything. And I kept on going. And you do it until the person is completely uncomfortable. Like when they start to do this at you, you know you've hit it, right? And then as soon as you get that, bring your rate of speech back to wherever that person is and see, because what you've done is you've disconnected rapport completely. It's severed, right? So bring your rate of speech back up to mirror that person again and see if you can get rapport again with that person. Now, I never could. I could not get it again. But what it does when you pull somebody that far out of rapport, which is counter to what we're taught to, especially for people who are in sales, is you will instantly recognize the second you're a step out of rapport. And so when you are a step out of rapport, you'll slide up into rapport and rate of speech again and mirroring and matching. And then you'll slowly pull them towards you again until they begin to disconnect, and you'll recognize it. And then you slow back down again and pull them again. So what you're doing when you do that is you're unconsciously pulling this person towards you in a position of leadership. Follow me, follow me. Oh, you're uncomfortable. Let me bring it back down again. Okay, follow me. And it works both directions. So I used that technique to really learn how to build rapport and how to recognize when I'm out of sync with somebody. Myers-Briggs.
Gina, can I just add to
Yeah.
that? I'm a productivity coach, and we literally just did that exercise. I had them, the agents role play that disconnect, because it is a powerful way to understand, because we were working on rapport, mirroring and matching and building rapport, and knowing when you're out of sync is so helpful for building rapport and actually pacing and leading them into your conversation. So yeah, that was, yeah, they had a lot of fun with it. So yeah.
It is fun. Don't tell your spouse it's more fun when you do that. We walked out of Target and my husband looked at me, he's like, what did you just do? And I'm like, oh, it's a social thing. He's like, would you please tell me before you do this kind of stuff? All right, fine. But don't, it's more fun when you don't. And then with a couple, I think, because somebody asked about a couple and which one you lead to, you really need to make sure that you're leading towards both, but one person's always going to be the stronger, it's more of a decision maker. And so I'm going to lean more towards that decision maker, but I'm never going to exclude or ignore the other person ever, 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 ever going to do that. I'm going to make sure I'm circling around and keeping them back up in this loop again. And then one of the other things I'm always going to be aware of in a room, especially at like a board meeting or something like that, when you do have that S personality that will not speak up, is I'm going to stop at some point and I'm going to say, Susie, out of curiosity, what's your opinion? And I'm just going to shut up and get everyone else to shut up. And one of the ways I'm going to control the situation so that they will shut up is I've already taken control by breaking it and saying something. And then I'm going to focus on Susie here, and I'm not going to take my eye contact off of Susie. I'm going to keep it on Susie because everybody else now is going to be looking at Susie also, and we're going to give her the space to talk. So, and then I'm going to make sure I give her the space to talk because her opinion is valuable and I do want it. So that's one of the things I do to make sure I pull in that other person who might not naturally pull in. Okay. All right. I think we covered everything question-wise and everything. However, bring them on if you got them. What you guys got?
I've got a quick question, actually. So you had touched on this briefly about being potentially firmly planted in 2 quadrants.
Mm-hmm.
So when I took this, I was a high D, high C, like almost 100% in both. And so I noticed you had mentioned, like, if you're trying to figure out where you land in the quadrant, look at what you might fear.
Mm-hmm.
How do you then, if you're identifying that and the party is across the table from you, how do you then know? Do you do the same thing? Do I like kind of try to identify the fear, whether they're in the high D or the high C? Because when you were giving your examples before, like, I'm the person that is, I can be very high action when there's a lot of clarity and don't really, probably to my own fault, don't really give a lot of consideration outside of anything more than efficiency. Like, let's get there, let's move. So that person that, steamrolls over somebody to get to the goal sometimes is me, not intentionally, but just because I can see this, we can get there. But then I'm very high C as well, in the sense that I worked in legal for a number of years. And, so if I was very uber aware of giving bad information, and I will fall on a sword in a second. If I thought if I gave bad information, I will run right up to anyone and I will, tell them this is what's going on. So how do you kind of combat that? All this when you're very high in 2 quadrants.
So while you're very high in 2 quadrants, you really lean towards that goal-oriented side. So for you, it's pulling over to that people-oriented side. Okay. And I like my husband is that CD personality also, although he's a stronger C and then leans heavily into D. And for him, I'm always working with him to open up and let people know how very much he does care about him, because it's not that his heart is cold. It's not, like you said, you would fall on a sword for somebody. It's that he doesn't open up and share that, so people aren't aware, because he's very cool and pulled back. Right. So for him, he has to actually be, I really like spending time with you. And he has to do things along those lines to let those people know that you do care about the people also. And the bottom line is also, is that there's nothing wrong with being a super goal-oriented person. I mean, we get stuff done. It's just a different personality type of the way that we're made. And then it's how do I help the people know how very much they do mean to us in our hearts, that we just don't show it that often. Does that help at all? I don't know if I helped at all.
This whole program has helped tremendously. Thank you. Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Let me see. Can I get a copy of the presentation? It's a picture, but I can give you my picture and then I can give you my notes that I've got. Like I make sure that I go over fast-paced, oriented, car, house, all those kinds of things. So I can give you guys that also.
And Gina, also tomorrow, the next day, every day after a class, Beverly sends out an email with a recording of the previous night's class. So that'll come out. And also the links, registration links for the upcoming classes. So
awesome. Yeah. Okay, I'm going through some of the questions, and so one of them I saw is, what is the most frequent profile for the doctor, single family investor, target buyer? Gary, I'm gonna like defer that one to you. What do you think is the most frequent profile for the investor, for the targeted buyer, the investor that's buying?
Yeah, off the chart. No, just it really, the funny is, it's, you know, the world of investors is just a cross section of society at large. But I think because it's real estate oriented and it's goal oriented, you know, we set goals. We want to buy we want to have so many rentals by the end of 5 years, things like that. You do tend to attract some D's and C's in there, but you always get, you know, the S's and the I's too. But I would say plan on having more C's and D's. And what's interesting is you can kind of tell where they're coming from, because the D's generally kind of shoot from the hip. They just operate based on gut instinct and intuition, things like that. They're fast. They don't have time to look at reports and data and graphs and all that kind of stuff. But the C's, they want everything. They want all the data, all the reports, all the contracts, you know, rent rolls, everything that you should get. So what I really like to do is sort of complement them. So if I find myself with a high, and by the way, you're going to meet a very high D on the 26th. He's in the middle of a zoning hearing right now. So I was on a zoning hearing right before class, so I was 2 minutes late. And he wings it. And I'm like, Benny, you got to prepare for this, man, you know? And so I was on as much as I could, attorney, as architect, the whole 9 years. So you're going to meet him, and you're also going to meet his agent, Christine, who was one of my agents years and years ago. And she's an awesome agent, works with a lot of investors. Right now, I think she's got like 12 pending transactions, 7 listings, and about $65,000 in escrow at a low price market. But in case, so she compliments him, and you'll see that interaction. That's why I wanted them all at the same time. You're gonna get to see that question, Gina. You're gonna get to see it and play right in front of us in 2 weeks, you know?
I love it.
But just remember, if you have a high D, try to compliment them, make sure you get the data, okay? So that they're making a good decision. If it's a high C, then you got to be the driver and say, you know what, we got to move. This property's not going to last, and show them examples. Look, this one went in 1 day. This one had 20 offers, and you got to compliment them, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's very good. Someone said, whatever happened to opposites attract? I'm a D and lean towards I a bit, and my husband is a C and leans in towards D, and that's about all the more opposite that I can handle. I've seen marriages where it's directly across, and I've also seen marriages where someone's in one quadrant and then dealing with more of the other quadrant. And I've seen all of them work. There's just when you lean both towards a certain quadrant, there's more of a simpatico is all it is. But I've seen really strong marriages across the board all the way around. You just learn to love the other person the way the other person needs to be loved. And I've had to learn to do that also with my husband, is love him the way that he needs to be loved. Someone else said, why do D's versus D's crash? We just butt heads. We want things our way. So you will see that, I want it this way. And I don't even think to ask some people sometimes like what they think. It's just like, well, we're going to go do this. And then I got the other D going, no, I'm not doing that. Well, wait, what? And it's interesting to watch the play. And it's also interesting when you see it happening in front of you and you can recognize this is just a clash of the high Ds. That's all it is. And you get some of this going on. Since I don't want to be in a situation like that, it helps to go, no, and then just continue on, because they accept it and they'll just come right back down again with it. Let me see. People think people are pushy when they talk fast. Someone put a link in the chat box. David did. Thank you for that, of where you can get your free disc. So if you haven't taken it, I encourage you to take it. Someone said, I've changed as I've grown older. You can a little bit. You won't change from your core. You can if you have trauma or a lot of something very, very hard happens in your life. Usually by the time you're about 25, you're completely set. And that's where you'll stay with maybe a couple of points deviating. You might soften up a little bit. You might stern up a little bit, that kind of thing. But to do a dramatic change, that means something really traumatic. After the age of 25, to do a dramatic change, something really dramatic and hard has come into your life that has forced you to change in some way. Someone said, thank you back. Awesome, thank you. Are you familiar with Catherine Colby and her personality test? She assesses core motivations, which apparently don't change over time, whereas DISC can change over time. Someone messaged me that. No, I am not familiar with that, but I definitely want to go check it out because that sounds super interesting. And then a thank you.
I've done Colby as well. They all kind of, and I did Prandex Pacific, and they all kind of over a 25-year period all seem to kind of point to the same thing. But Colby is interesting.
Okay, very cool. I do know this. I took the DISC test. I'm sorry, David, you continue.
I can get you a link for the Colby.
You.
I'll let my eye slide in there because
you'll be all cute, get away with it.
We'll talk.
Another thing, guys, when you're out there working, there's nothing like in the field training. So just practice. When you're with people, pay attention to what they're wearing, how they're speaking, slow versus fast, the words, the descriptive words they use. This feels like this, or this looks like that, or that sounds great. Feeling, looking, sounding, all kind of are indicators for you. And what happens also is you actually get better at crossing over into the different quadrants. You want to meet them where they are. And Gina, correct me if I'm wrong, I think statistically, most people can go into a different quadrant that's not their own quadrant for up to about a half hour before they start feeling really comfortable and I got to get out of here, But you get better at it with practice,
Yep. Rob asked me where I got specifics for each type. I took a really interesting DISC class about 20 years ago that just dealt with clothing, career, percentage, and then extroverted, introverted, fast-paced, warm, cold. Over time, I built in the car, the fear, the anger. And right before this class, I literally went to my husband and I'm like, okay, hang on. I have selling points. I have for the D, are you the best? For the I, do I like you? For the S, can I trust you? I go, what the heck do you care about? He goes, I want you to research it. I want to have the proof and then I'm going to check you out anyway. I'm like, that's all I need. Although it took him like 20 minutes to get there to tell me that answer. But I'm constantly going around because this fascinates me of talking with the different personality types to figure out how they think so I can help them the best way that they can. So I've built a lot of the rest of it I've built on myself just from watching people. So good question. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you guys a ton.
It's like I have a sign on me that says, tell me all of your business. And people just pour, they just tell me all their life story. It just happens all the time, strangers.
Definitely. What personality style are you?
Well, this says IS.
Because you're all about people, darling.
Oh yeah. Beverly, when I think of Beverly, you know what I think of? I just want to give her a big hug. Seriously.
Because you're all about people. I love it. So of course they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You make them really, really comfortable.
Yeah.
So does anybody have anything else? Kara, I don't even know if this meeting was supposed to go till 8. And if it was, I'm sorry. And if it's supposed to go till 8:30, great.
That's okay. We're tending to go longer the last several months, and that's a good sign. But I do want to say something right here. I appreciate all the guests coming on board. Tom Wall, good to see you again, buddy. PF Jimenez just finished his onboarding application. He's officially part of the team. John Perry's officially part of the team. So these are all new folks, and Colin Papone is joining us from Canada. Okay. And my screen's not letting me see some of the other folks. Sean, also, I think Sean Noble, you're in the process. I think you did the application process. That's right. Yep. So he's under Mo up in St. Louis. Rob Pros from Florida, Gina. He's a guest. I just spoke to him earlier, and he was at one of my first events back in 2018 in Orlando, 3-day event. Yep.
Yeah, great stuff, man.
Yep. So we'll probably hopefully be hearing more from Rob. And if I didn't mention your name, it's the thing is I can't see everybody's picture. I see. Oh, Tammy. Hey, Tammy. Good to see you. Carmelita. So we got a lot of guests. So welcome aboard, everybody. I hope you like this. Definitely make sure you're on the 26th. We'll have Christine and Benny on. You get to see the relationship. And next week, what I want to do is go back to where I was the week before this. We went over this for like checklist, how you actually work with investors, like step by step, the steps you make to prepare and be organized and be structured, and the things you give them to do, the investors to do, that make sure you want to work with them. I thought we would follow up with that with some actual more academics related to the rental side, because we talked about flippers, we didn't talk about landlords. And believe it or not, when it comes into this profile, I'll just ask you guys this. But what this profile would you say, if you can pick 3 of the quadrants, would you normally associate with people who want to flip homes? Just call them out or type them in. Call out maybe the top 2 or top 3 quadrants associated with people that would normally flip homes.
DIC.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the I and C.
Which one will be stronger, the C or the I on the flipping?
C.
Yeah, the I. Now, how about the rentals?
C.
C. More the C.
Yeah.
It's just something I noticed over the years. The I, they're like, they don't care. They just, this house is a good deal. I know I'm going to make a big profit on it. We're going to throw in a new kitchen, a new carpet, and just like hands are going everywhere, But the people buying rentals, they're like, show me the numbers, show me the data, But both of them are definitely high Ds, So, yeah.
That's cool.
No, these are just generalizations. That quite frankly, you're going to have exceptions everywhere. You'll have people that are really well balanced. Sometimes it's rare, but they're balanced, and sometimes they're hard to read because some people are good at changing roles, which means they change quadrants. At the office, you're the boss. You're like a high D. You go home, you're the mom. You're a high S. You're at the party. You're a high I. So in any case, yeah.
Oh, one more thing I forgot about. You just reminded me of it. There are certain personality types that are DS or IC. Once in a blue moon, you see a personality type that's the exact opposite. They're quirky, they're weird, they're odd ducks. They're very.
I resemble that remark.
Hey. Yeah, I thought of you. So once in a while, you'll see that also. But Gary's right. Sometimes you'll see people that firmly planted in all 4 of them. They're just very balanced, very even keel, almost flat line in how they interact, and they can move a little bit any direction they want to. Yeah. Thanks, Gary.
Does anybody want to guess what my profile is? I kind of gave you a hint. So.
ID.
In the early days, I was definitely DIC in that order, almost no S. But guess what happened? Major life, just, crisis mode. Multiple everything, physical, emotional, everything you can possibly imagine. And so what happened is I became uncomfortable. I wanted to be the support person, helping other people be the shining star on the stage. So my S surfaced and my D dropped a little bit. Now, when I'm in certain roles, my D comes back loud and strong, no doubt about it. But I'm happier now because I'm more of an S role, and I'm just more mellow. I'm just more, I don't get razzled like I used to, I've already built the empire, and I'm really enjoying life. So the S is really coming out, and I'm more of a hugger, and I'll listen more, a lot more than I used to. Used to be, I'd get so frustrated. I'm like, would you please just stop talking and take some action? I've actually had people before I went on the phone and say, you have got to talk faster. I said that to a client one time. any case, but anymore, I just want to be at peace and I want to be happy and I want to make sure everybody else is at peace and happy and successful too. So good life can be pretty cool sometimes when you let it,
That servant leadership is important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You do a good job of it too, Gary.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Hey, any other questions for Gina, guys? I mean, this is pretty cool, and I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and being a leader yourself too and doing this. This was awesome. And everybody definitely practice this. Practice this out in the field. Before you'll find yourself in your own mind thinking he's a D, she's an S. It'll just become automatic. See, look at Melody. She's shaking her head. It does, but you just can't help it, So, but it helps a lot. So, yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you for allowing me up too, Gary. I really do appreciate it. And it was a lot of fun.
Thanks. Okay. Guys, I guess that'll be about it then. And look for the recording tomorrow. So the subject in the email always says last night's something. I forget what Beverly has in there, but it also has last nights in there. So check your spam if you don't see it, and make sure you do the register. You guys probably already get them. The people that aren't here are the ones who need to hear that. I guess I get texts all the time. Hey, what's the link for class? And I'm already in class and I can't really do anything about it, So, but I always get back to them later. So my eye's coming out. You can't shut me up.
And Gary, aren't all the links in the they're posted under the events in the
correct
Facebook group?
Yeah, if you go to the GIA workplace page, click on more, the tab more, it drops down, look for events, and all the links are in there too. So, yeah.
Cool.
And for all the guests, Tammy, for everybody, Rob, you're welcome. Tom, you're welcome to come to every class, so you're welcome guests. Good to have you. Luann, good to see you again. So, yeah. Okay, guys, you ready to go have some apple pie? I'm gonna hop on another call with John. I think John Perry, you and I are on in about 5 minutes, right?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. I'll see you there.
Bye. Thanks.
Soon. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.